And away we go. It's the DFS Alert presented by Awesemo.com, brought to you in part by Yahoo DFS. We'll get to that momentarily. Dan Strever, Chris Rendon with you on this Wednesday morning. It's the Wednesday before the day before Black Friday. Obviously, Thanksgiving there in between. Happy almost Turkey Day to everyone. For those of you who go out Wednesday night, this is my old man PSA. You go out Wednesday night, you're drinking with your friends from high school. Grab a Lyft, grab an Uber, don't drive. Anyway, Chris, how the hell you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm getting ready to go into hibernation on Thursday, right? Watch football, eat a bunch of food, and just let all the women go shopping and the men stay home.
I mean, I don't we don't go out of the house. We just do the Black Friday on the computer anyway. For those of you who go out, I think there's some sort of to your point, there's some sort of hunter-gatherer thought there. The people who go out to the stores are the hunters. I'm much more of a gatherer. I'll stay home. I'll let the deals come to me. I don't need to seek them out at 2:00 in the morning in Kohl's or Target or wherever people are seeking out their deals.
I mean, I love saving money, man, but I don't like being in the cold, sleeping in a tent just to save like $100. It's just, I can't do it.
Nope, I'm right there with you.
I'd rather pay the extra 100.
Yeah, I will take the convenience of, and whatever, Jeff Bezos tells me of Amazon at this point in my life. But nonetheless, we do have a 14 game. Yes, that is 14 game slate talking before we start recording. 2 games on Tuesday night, no games on Thursday because of obviously Thanksgiving and the NFL sort of being the predominant entertainment on the day for sports fans. So the NBA takes the day off. We have everyone pretty much in play here. We'll talk about which 2 teams are not on tap. But beyond that, tons of injuries to talk about. And I want to quickly run that down here, Chris, before we jump in. Anthony Davis is always questionable, but he is listed as probable here with that shoulder issue that has been plaguing him all season. Trae Young is also probable. He has a game against the Bucks. He has a right ankle sprain that he suffered last time out. Kyrie continues to be out for the Nets. Rudy Gobert, questionable for this one, and that's a big one. I think that opened up a lot for people who wanted to play Giannis against the Jazz once Gobert was out. Made a much better play. Gobert not in the center here may open up some Brogdon for some folks if that comes to pass. Clint Capella, questionable. D'Angelo Russell out. You have Kevin Love with the Q tag as well. He will be a game-time decision with his back issue. So already we're talking through Kyle Lowry, and then you have John Morant is questionable. There's a lot to go into this slate, and I am not a very big Boston Celtics fan, but great to see Kemba Walker questionable, most likely probable for this game Wednesday. I don't know, Chris, if you saw that play where he ran into his teammate, seemed like he had a severe neck injury, just a concussion, and should be back playing for the Celts on Wednesday night. But a number of injuries. So, Chris, I say all that to say we're going to talk about this slate. We're going to do our best to break it down and then point you in the direction of all of the content at Awesemo.com because we have the NBA Strategy Show Wednesday morning. We have the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock, all available for free on YouTube. And then, of course, the great content behind the paywall, the projections, the ownership projections, the deep dive, and so much more that is available to each and every one of you who are members. Early bird, the promo code for anyone who wants to get on for 50% off of your first month. But any of those injuries to you, one you're tracking or things you want to know more about, or are you ready to dive in and start talking about these position-by-position takes?
I think Gobert is big. I mean, offensively for Indiana, you'd probably want to go Sabonis or Turner. It becomes pretty weak there in that front court. But then on the flip side of it, Bradley could be interesting because he's fairly cheap. So we might be looking for value on a 14-game slate. It's pretty big. A 14-game slate, it's so big that how do you go about it? Do you go with a lot of value or do you just go balanced? A lot of games here. There's a lot of great spots for teams that are going to be in up-pace situations that could drive a lot more scoring opportunities. But Kyrie Irving being out, Dinwiddie is kind of an automatic place at these situations because of so much usage that goes into play for him. A little bit of a tougher task going against Boston, but Kemba being out, that could be interesting. Outside of that, I think Morant, if he's out, I do kind of like Tyus Jones as a value play. Not necessarily the best matchup, but Tyus Jones is fairly cheap. And if we're going to be looking for value, that could be an area that other people go to. And then other cues that are on Davis, Love, these guys, they're questionable, but most likely they'll be playing. And then Trae Young, I think, is somewhat interesting if he's out, because I think that'll bump Jabari Parker's usage up way more. And it's kind of a revenge narrative for Jabari Parker going back to Milwaukee, where it all started.
Where it all started. Remember, revenge narratives are in the eye of the beholder. So just take that for what it's worth. And the likes of a Jabari Parker on revenge narrative, maybe like overdrive. It just might be too much for someone like him to make it happen. Right. But nonetheless, we will go position by position here and make this a quick look at this slate so you can get a first taste of where we're looking and what we think are the most important stats and information to take into consideration. We start with the James Harden-led Houston Rockets, and they have Miami. Harden is 11-8. Reading that Butler is traveling with the team, whether or not he plays, still in question. LeBron James at 11-5. Then you drop to Trae Young, Kyrie, potentially both out. Looks like Young will play, but Irving definitely out. Then Westbrook, he's at 8-8. And I know Miami's been pretty good on defense, but that's intriguing. And then Dame Lillard at 8,600. Against OKC stands out a lot to me. I know Chris Paul can still play defense, but that was one at the top end that made me at least pause at first glance. What do you like on the top end? Let's say 7K and above. You already mentioned Dinwiddie, which I think we can put a pin in and come back to at a later point. But who do you like on the top end of point guard?
Yeah, I love Dinwiddie. Kind of like Chris Paul a little bit at 7,200 going into Portland. I don't mind that. With Lowry still being out, Van Fleet is just kind of guaranteed 38, 39 plus minutes. And his price point doesn't really change. It fluctuates throughout that 7K range. So at 7,900 in a game that probably is going to be fairly easy for them, the only thing that I would be scared of is a blowout opportunity, but he's going to play. And if he can get you 45, 50 fantasy points, don't mind that. Westbrook is another one that we continue to talk about all the time on this podcast. 8,800. He's cheap, but what have you done for me lately? 35 fantasy points, 38, 43. It's just not enough. He's shooting a little bit better from the field, but not the same Westbrook as we saw. He's had one kind of outlier game against Portland where he had 68 fantasy points, but outside of that, it's pretty marginal. So I don't know if we can trust it, and I don't know if I'd want to go there. I think I'd rather go in some other areas. But for me, Westbrook is just, we continue to see this price tag, but he's just not giving me confidence to want to believe in him that it'll pay off.
I hear that, and I think that you have the upside for a guy like Westbrook on any given turn, but there is some questions, I think, legitimately around how this offense will operate for the entire year. We've seen some upside with both Harden and Westbrook on the court, but will that translate into every game in and out? It is worth mention that Westbrook is at 30.5 usage when on the floor. Obviously, you have Harden, who checks in as the number one usage player on the slate and in the league, for that matter. 37.9% usage on the season. That is with everybody on the court, everybody available to the Houston Rockets. That's from NBA.com. As we scroll on and look at the mid to lower tiers, you made mention about whether or not Kemba Walker's playing. I made mention when we're talking about injuries as well. So that's an intriguing one. He is just 6,700, gets a pretty prime matchup with the Brooklyn Nets if he is available and ready to play. You look at the likes of a Terry Rozier, and Kai Bowman is still at the 6,400 price point. He is playing massive minutes, has two back-to-back 40-plus point games. This is a matchup with the Chicago Bulls. Could have some upside there for Bowman. Anybody in the mid or lower tiers you want to call out here beyond anyone you've mentioned already?
Great call on that Kai Bowman, man. He's cheap, 6,400, but a lot of usage, a lot of time on the floor lately. At 6,400, I think we're going to see a lot of people go to this spot against Chicago. As we know, if you've seen, Chicago is one of the top 10 teams in pace right now, and Golden State is not far right behind them either. So they're top 12. This could be a nice little back and forth, a lot of possession game, and I don't mind the call with Kai Bowman. The only thing I did mind was this past game. against OKC, had an amazing first half, and then the second half just kind of faded away. Jordan Poole kind of took over the ball handling and kind of was the captain of the offense. But if he can just remain that the entire game, I mean, at 6,400, I love that play against Chicago. Rozier, he's been very disappointing this year through thick and thin, but it's going to be a great matchup against Detroit at home, 6,400. I think he's something to consider. I think Alexander from OKC, 6,600. I mean, he's going to give you 35 plus minutes. If he's knocking down his shot, he's there on the defensive end. He's somewhat of an interesting play. Alec Burks was very disappointing last game. Just didn't have his shot, couldn't find it. But with everyone else out, he's still someone who will be on the floor. And if he gets hot and his shot's sinking, he can put up big numbers, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks for the amount of time that he's been on the court. Love Schroeder coming off the bench in this game against Portland. He's only 5,700. He's someone to consider as well. Man, there's a lot of guys that you're going to want to, look at in this 5K range, because a lot of guys can definitely pay off here. I think Kendrick Nunn, Kobe White. And then as we go down a little bit more into the 4K range, I think we have to consider maybe 4,600. We have Isaiah Thomas. If he can give you 27, 28 minutes, I don't mind that. Bryn Forbes. And TJ McConnell has been somewhat interesting off the bench. He's only playing about 22, 23 minutes, but definitely a little bit of a usage there. And he's been averaging about 25, 24 fantasy points. So these guys are, once again, very punt plays in the 4K range, but I love the 5K range. I think there's a lot of value there, and I could see a lot of ownership going through that match.
Makes sense to me, and I think you made mention 14 games. Ownership is going to be very intriguing, interesting, whatever word you want to use, just determining where people are leaning. You shouldn't see what we've seen on some of the 6 and 7 game slates, guys in the 40, 50% range. Now, DK's pricing has been a little bit off. Listen, if you follow Twitter and you follow the absurd discussions going on, and yes, I do believe them to be absurd. I believe them to be reductive and circular and just people arguing to argue. No one's asking my opinion on it, but I'm giving it anyway. I think it's people talking to be heard and fine. The thing is, though, DK's pricing has been soft. It has been a process, and FanDuel's even more so. So you're getting very similar plays. So if you're talking cash games, yes, you want to know about ownership percentages because you want to know where people are leaning and you want to cover off on those plays. If you are talking about GPPs, then you want to be against the herd. You want to have an understanding of where an ownership maybe deficit or mis-ownership is in a projection. And I think Alex and team, everybody at Awesemo who does the back-end stuff, projections and the like, do a great job of offering up that information to all our subscribers. It's not hidden anywhere. It's not trying to make it any way difficult to find. Once you're a sub and you're paying for the product, you have access to all the same information that everybody else has that is a sub to Awesemo, and you can use that to make your choices. So on a slate like this, I think ownership is going to matter so much. You might hear someone say, well, ownership is going to be flat anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, I still want to look at those single-digit guys. I still want to understand the guys who have the upside and try to find diamonds in the rough, and I think you're going to have tons of them across this slate, especially at the point guard and center spots, as we often see. Let's talk some shooting guard. While I do remind you that Yahoo DFS has plenty of options for you when it comes to daily fantasy. They have the $10 $200K in prizes baller for the weekend for NFL. They do have a new turkey baller available. They've already gone through 2. This one is not the same management fee free, always get the wrong, tournament. This is a full management fee of 12.2%, still fairly low, $11 to enter. This is Thanksgiving only. And then, of course, for Friday, I got that wrong. For Wednesday, they have a $10 and a $25 baller that is available to you. So go check out Yahoo DFS, check out all their offerings, and make sure to go to Emacs article each and every day to get a link to sign up there for that as well. Let's go to shooting guard next. Harden obviously eligible here. You do have Bradley Beal as your most expensive player at the position who is just shooting guard eligible. He's one of the few players on DK that doesn't have MPE other than centers. Always amazing to see that. But you have Leonard and Booker. And wow, Kawhi's a shooting guard on DraftKings. Did not realize that. Anyway, Booker, Drew Holiday, Butler, Van Vliet, Dinwiddie, Wiggins, and we go on from there. Who are some of your favorite shooting guard plays at the top end?
Isn't that crazy how they just keep switching his position?
They
It's like, hey, you know what? Draymond Green starts one game at point guard,
make him
so
a point
he's
guard.
officially a point guard.
Yep.
It's like, come on, man. I don't like
But someone like Bradley Beal handles the ball
right.
fairly regularly and picks up 5 to 7 assists per game. He's just a shooting guard.
Just a shooting guard. We can't even give him the point guard consideration. Doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of disappointing because you would think that up to now that we're kind of getting involved and comfortable in the season, that they would really switch this. But Kawhi Leonard was just a power forward not too long ago. Traditionally he's a small forward, and then now we got him at shooting guard on draft. It's like, come on, man, it doesn't make sense. Anyways, there's a lot of guys here at this position that you can obviously flip to point guard or small forward. But just looking at a first look, I think Drew Holiday is in a great spot at 8,100 against the Lakers. And I know you're thinking, well, the Lakers are pretty good defensively. I see this game being a really up-paced spot. I think there's going to be a lot of great spots for him here. I love Devin Booker. This game, Washington-Phoenix, could be a very high-scoring back-and-forth game. Now, Washington's losing currently pretty big to the Nuggets. So
Do you know the over-under? Have you seen the over-under for this game yet?
I don't, but if I had to guess, I would say it's 234.
It is
230.
It is 242.5.
Wow. Yeah. So this game, what's the spread?
Let's double check. Pull that up. It is bigger than I thought it'd be. -8 for the Suns.
Okay. So a little bit of a spread, but I think what we'll see here is this will probably be a very high scoring game and a lot of shooting, as is a lot of Washington games. One of the worst defenses in the NBA. So I think I'm going to like a lot of Phoenix players here, even Phoenix players off the bench. Don't mind Bridges. Don't mind Kaminsky if he comes off the bench yet again. And then as you go down the list, though, I'm sticking with this position. I think Jimmy Butler at 8K, I think is a steal. And it's going to be going against Houston. So I think in this type of game, they're going to want to keep their players on the court. Now, I think if I do remember, I'm pretty sure they played last time. He dropped 50 fantasy points against them. I could be wrong, but I believe it was 50. Yes, it was 50.8 DraftKings points. So it's a great matchup for him. Harden doesn't really play defense, and they're going to need him on Harden a lot. So there's going to be a lot of defensive opportunities considering how much Harden has the ball in his hands. I think Wiggins at 7,700. If Teague is out, or Teague came off the bench last game, that was weird. And then he didn't end up playing a whole lot, but Wiggins was essentially the ball handler. So, and as we know, when Wiggins has the ball in his hands, and he's the ball handler and Teague's not on the floor, he's a lot more productive. So, you can consider him if you want. Looking at these guys, though, I think I wouldn't want to pay much outside of maybe Butler, Holiday, maybe Kawhi, Booker in those 8K range. But then as we get down, I think I would want to not pay 6,900 for Brown. I don't want to pay 7K for Lou Williams. Brogdon, 6,800. Now, that's interesting because just recently he was, I believe, in the 8K, and then he got the injury. He was off for a few days. So he only played 30 minutes last game, but I think it was because of how much of a lead they had. But if he can get back to his normal minute range, I do like him as well in that area.
Especially to chime in there, if Gobert's out and Brogdon's not necessarily somebody like Giannis who is consistently attacking the rim, but that just changes that Utah defense so much that if Gobert's out again, it feels like Brogdon at 6,800 is an absolute steal. That this is a Pacers team that should attack the rim, and Brogdon should be a part of that. So I'm all on board for Brogdon at 6,800. If Gobert is in, if he's not in, then I think even better opportunity there. We do get down into the likes of Kennard and Schroeder, you mentioned at the point guard position, Nunn, White, lots of the names that we've talked about before. Do you have any shooting guard eligible or shooting guard small forward guys down here at the cheap end, or ready to move on to small forward?
I think Alec Burks is great. We talked about him for the point guard position, but I don't mind him. I don't mind Schroeder. Don't mind Joe Harris. Joe Harris kind of gets overlooked a lot, but he plays a lot of minutes. He shoots quite a bit of threes. I think he averages like 8 or 9 threes a game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's around 7 or 8, but he puts up a lot of threes. And he shoots a lot of shots, 17, 13, 11. And he's someone, if his shot's in, I mean, if he can get you 35 fantasy points at 5,700, I don't mind that at all. And then as we go down even further, JJ Redick at 5,300, I think is interesting. I love Tyler Hero coming off the bench at 5,100. And even though he comes off the bench, I mean, he's still playing heavy minutes, and he's getting off shots. By the way, I just watched like his high school videos, and he was a stud in high school. He was absolutely incredible. He's a very cocky player, but he was very entertaining to watch, I have to tell you. And then if you want to go down even more, Pat Beverly, 5,000. He's very frustrating at times because of foul trouble, but because he's so aggressive. But I don't mind him either as we round out the 5K.
I will say, I hope anyone who's made it to the NBA has an amazing high school mixtape. But secondarily, what were you doing that you went down that rabbit hole?
Dude, it was late. I was researching for NFL Saturday night, and so usually I stay up all night Saturday night.
Sure.
Like my wife goes to bed, and throughout the night I just grind and do lineups and just continue to just push. And I came across a YouTube video that I was watching, and in the right corner it said something about Tyler Hero and his mixtape. And like, so I watched one of his games. He dropped like 45 in a playoff game, and it was funny because he was on an all white team, and they were playing against the inner city all black team from Chicago, and they just dominated. And his shot is just so pure, and how good he was in high school. He was unstoppable. He legit was unstoppable. Now I know why he was a high recruit for Kentucky. He was that good.
There you have it. Let's roll on to small forward, where we have Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Jimmy Butler. Lots of the same names that we've discussed many times over, obviously, on a 14-game slate. That's going to happen. We do have Jonathan Isaac, whose price point is up 7,500. He was up at, 7,900 last time out, and seemed to start to deliver in the first half. And then, speaking of, sort of faded throughout the second. He did have 51 and 45 points, respectively, those 2 games ago. But obviously, that has a lot to do with Aaron Gordon being out. Aaron Gordon is out for Wednesday's game with an ankle injury. So, small forward, we have lots of names to discuss, but want to get right to Jonathan Isaac. Do you think this is a good spot? Do you go back to the well here coming off of a bad game?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think I want to be honest with you. Looking at some other areas, I once again, here we go with Butler at 8K. I think he's very underpriced, and Paul George at 86. I mean, the guy's kind of fully involved now, and he's playing heavy minutes. And I mean, there's really no reason why he should be at 8,600. So these two are criminally underpriced. And then Ben Simmons, I mean, this guy can't shoot, but for some reason he somehow gets it done still. It's incredible. So I don't mind him either at 7,600. Of all these top guys, I like them. But if I'm going with my number one guy here, I kind of like LeBron James, man, at 11.5. And I know that's crazy to say on a 14-game slate, but I don't think many people will pay up to LeBron tomorrow. And to be honest with you, I think that might be a little bit of a contrarian play.
I think that ownership will dictate where you go and whether or not the value opens up, right? We've talked about it a couple of times. If value opens up to where you can get to LeBron, great. Or if you are confident in your lineup construction that you can get to an 11.5 player and still get decent building blocks around him, absolutely. I think LeBron's spot here is absolutely crushable, and even an 11.5 has some of the most upside on this slate. Just all about what pieces you get to build around him with. You do get Chris Middleton back here at 6,800. Kelly Oubre is at 69. Tobias Bogdanovich is 6,600. I think this mid-tier has a little bit more to offer than small forward often does. Again, 14 games will do that. Anybody on the mid-tier or cheap end at small forward do you think is worthwhile to talk about?
I think Taurean Prince is interesting at 5,800. He seems to get it done as of late. It's been very aggressive with his shot. He's putting up a lot of shots, and he's handling the ball, getting some assists, and crashing the boards as well. And 5,800 for someone who kind of can get you points in different areas, I don't mind that. Glenn Robinson just came off his career game. He's 6,000 against Chicago. This is going to be a great matchup for him. And with everyone still injured, he's someone who can definitely be the scorer. And he's someone who I think they can lean on late in the game. They don't have anyone yet that they trust that can close out games. And we saw that last night where they crumbled when they had a huge lead against OKC. So him stepping up last night, he dropped 42 fantasy points, but he's playing heavy minutes. He's getting more shots up. And I think Glenn Robinson at 6K is not bad whatsoever.
That is always a scary statement to hear. I do not disagree with you. I understand it, but it is not something that I sleep well with. But Glenn Robinson, the third, has been playing consistent minutes up in the 30s. There is upside here. He's taking plenty of shots. And again, he's a Golden State team that doesn't have anything. And you can project a blowout. You can talk about the fact that they are playing a G League team. That's fine. But there's going to be value in that. There's going to be availability of shots and upside. Getting it right on each night may be difficult between the Burks and the Bowmans and the Robinsons and Draymond when he's in there. That's fine. But I do think Robinson, the third here, is worthwhile. How are we feeling about Carmelo? Are we thinking, you mentioned revenge narrative. I know they're coming to his neck of the woods, but OKC, does he have some hate in his heart here to actually rebound the damn ball beyond shooting it? Does that happen here at 5,900?
Man, how does he looks good though. I mean, we got to give him some credit.
Of course, Carmelo Anthony will be scoring baskets into his 60s. Like, Carmelo Anthony will look good playing basketball well into old age. The problem has been that he lacks passion at times, which we saw in Houston, and he doesn't play defense. Like, he doesn't care at all, but he doesn't have a James Harden talent level right now. He's not at that age bracket where he can do it. Carmelo still looks great. Like, when he's on, he's on. And so at 5,900, do you see enough upside to give you another 40, 45 plus DK outing, or would you stay away?
I mean, with Lillard back in the offense, I think it helps him kind of get open and set up shots for him. So, yeah, I don't mind it. He's going to get you some rebounds as well. But if his shot's going in at 5,900, I mean, he's a legitimate scorer. So, and what we've seen so far, 14 shots, 15, 15, 20, you got to somewhat kind of just be on the bandwagon and said, okay, until his price point is where maybe he can't hit value at 5,900, what does he have to do? He's got to get you 35. He's done that, twice now? Well, he's done 32 and 41 out of 4 games, but he can score and I don't mind it. I'll just say that if we're going to compare him to other guys at 5,900, which, I mean, Glenn Robinson 6K. I like Glenn Robinson a little bit more than Carmelo Anthony, so I'm going to have to take a stand on that. But I think he's better play than maybe Joe Harris. Draymond Green's questionable, but I'd rather have Pascal or whatever. I forget how to pronounce his name, Eric Pascal, but I like him a lot. I think Carmelo's a better play than Covington, better than TJ Warren, and better than Crowder. So, yeah, I would rate him higher than those guys for sure at that price point, but I would still say Glenn Robinson has the edge.
All right, let's continue to roll on to power forward. We'll take a look at some Yahoo prices after power forward just to get a sense of where those price points are. Don't forget, we have tons of content specific for Yahoo when it comes to projections and write-up from EMAC. We also have tons of content available across all the different sites, including projections, ownership projections, write-ups, free articles, premium articles, all of that available over at Awesemo.com. Power forward gives us Giannis AD with that Q tag. Again, this is just the shoulder. I assume for the rest of this season, we'll have a Q tag on AD. And I mean that not as a slight or snarky. It's just going to be the world we live in, that he is constantly on the injury report. And I think that's fine. Hopefully diminishes ownership and gives us some upside even at 10K. Pascal Siakam, such a great name. 8,900. Paul George, Brandon Ingram. We rolled down the list of some of the names we've already talked about. Talking about Brad Beal before. Blake Griffin, one of the few power forward only eligible players on this slate. He is at 7K. Harrell had a very bad first half. I haven't checked back in since then on his play on Tuesday night, but he has Memphis at 7K. There's going to be a ton of options here, Chris, simply because it's a 14-game slate, and power forward does have some upside with some of the more stretch fours happening as this NBA evolves even further. But what do you like? Do you go to a Giannis or an AD here, or do you think this is a position that maybe we save a few dollars at?
Harrell 12-7-1-1 is the updated right now. So not necessarily the Harrell game that we've seen with him. So pretty basic night tonight. But um, man, power forward. What do we do with Giannis here at 12.4? It on a 14 game slate. Do we say no or do we say yes? How do you feel about him?
I mean, Giannis is always somebody that I am more than happy to get to. Again, talking about his ability to get to the rim, there is no one in this Atlanta roster that I think is deterring him from that. Same reason why once Gobert was out, I think it opened up a huge opportunity. I think Giannis is more than viable to have another ceiling game here. And if we do the 5x plus 10, what are we talking about? 60, 70 points. I think 75, 80 is a legitimate ceiling for him on this slate. Now, from a roster construction standpoint, I'm not starting with him. I'm not saying Giannis is the stand I'm taking. That's where I'm going, but I'd have no problem rostering Giannis getting. Well, let me do one thing. Let me check if we have a line on this game simply to see. So this is the question. I am of the camp that you do not predict blowouts, that you do not try to get into the world of saying, well, Giannis is only going to play 24 minutes because Milwaukee's going to be up 20 in the third quarter, because it's just too many variables. And if they are up 20, hopefully Giannis had a hand in that. But at 12-4, I will say a minus 14.5 for Milwaukee, even with a 239.5 over under, does give me pause, Chris. Does give me that second of saying, I don't know that a full ceiling game at 12-4 is available for Giannis. So I will back off that statement a little bit and say, love Giannis, think he has the upside to blow this slate out of the water if this game somehow stays close. I just don't know how I would predict this game stays close.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it will. And the thing is, he's played them once and they blew them out, I think. I'm pretty sure he only played 30 minutes, but he was able to get 54 points. Imagine if it stays close, he'll definitely get probably 65, 70. I wouldn't doubt it. But at 12-4, I do like LeBron a little bit better. So it's hard for me to kind of say I like Giannis here when I do like LeBron a little bit more. But other of the top tier guys, Siakam, George, Ingram, Sabonis, I don't think you can go wrong with really any of these guys. If Gobert's out, I think Sabonis definitely becomes even more appealing than what he already is. But sure. Paul George is definitely criminally underpriced at 8,600. Just doesn't make sense. And Siakam, is someone who is going to get you 35, 40 minutes, going to take a ton of shots. And the only thing he's just been lacking with crashing the boards right now. He's doing everything else. But if he can just get a little bit more, a couple more boards per game and get you those double-doubles and get you that double-double point bonus, I don't mind him there as far as the high-tier guys are concerned.
Makes sense to me. We do have mid-tier of similar players that we had at small forward. Then you get into the likes of a Julius Randle, has his price point all the way down to 6,400. This is a guy who was 7,100 last time out, was up in the mid-7Ks for a while. Has been playing a pretty consistent 30 to 36 minutes for the Knicks, has been scoring, shooting at about a 50% clip when playing well. Rebounds have pretty consistently been in the high single digits between 7 and 9. Assists have been there. That seems like a pretty decent price point for Randall against Toronto at 6,400. Do you have any interest in him or an Al Horford? Or you did mention Jabari Parker earlier at 6,400. Any of these guys at the mid-tier of power forward stand out to you?
Yeah, I like Oubre at 6,900. I really do. He had a really bad game against a really good defense against the Nuggets last game. So I can't really count that. But at 6,900, he's going to give you a ton of time on the court. And he is aggressive. There's a lot of usage there. So, but it's a really up-paced spot. Washington just doesn't have any defense. So I think he can really thrive in this type of situation. Bogdanovic is pretty consistent. Isn't this a kind of a little revenge narrative for Bogdanovic coming back to Indiana?
If we can figure out a revenge narrative wherever you would like one, Chris.
I just like mentioning it because
his sister married his cousin, and then they got divorced, and he wants to show him. Yeah, we can figure it out, I'm sure.
No, everyone just always says, "Oh, it's a revenge narrative." So I kind of like just messing around with people, but I don't mind.
All the sports, we've mentioned this many times across the podcast. NBA players who have the ball in their hands, yes, there's something to it. Baseball, let's not talk about revenge narratives. But yes, go on.
Randall 6,400, it's just on the breaking point of can he get there? He does have these games where he can get you 50 fantasy points. There could be a lot of upside there. Toronto, a little bit of a different story, though. Siakam's pretty good defensively, so I don't know if it's the best of matchups. However, though, I don't doubt his talent. At 6,400, he can definitely get you there. So I'm not gonna discredit him. Jabari Parker, we talked about. I really like him at 6,400. He's just been a completely different guy, man, with John Collins out of the lineup. Now, the last few games, he's struggled a little bit, but he's still 38 points, 34 points. He's someone who can definitely get you 40 fantasy points without a doubt. And at 6,400, we want him to get us 30, 35, 36 fantasy points, and we'll be happy with him. I like that, but I think what the extra cherry on top is him going back to Milwaukee where it all started, like I mentioned earlier. I think that has something to kind of pair with him there. If Kevin Love is out, I don't mind Larry Nance at 6,300. Yeah. Why is Larry Nance so good when someone's out? It's just it's like automatic. It's so weird. But
I don't have a good answer for you.
Yeah, it's I don't mind him at all. And then obviously we talked about Carmelo. And I think Thomas Bryant will be in a way better situation tomorrow night than compared to tonight in Phoenix at 6,000. And you could play him at power forward. That's interesting. The only thing I wish with Thomas Bryant is that he played more minutes. That's the only negative.
He got off to a very solid start. Yeah, he's 42% on DK as we record there. 6:14 to go in the fourth, and I'm in the $4 GPP just for context. He has 31 DraftKings points. So double could be incoming here from Bryant, though Denver is up 17. So we'll see what his minutes are down the stretch. But Bryant was another name that I was going to bring up here at the bottom end. I think this is, and I agree with you, a prime spot. If you could get him to a few more minutes some way, somehow, I think the upside is there. Lingering between the 22 to 28, 30 range is not ideal. Give him 34, 36, and I feel a lot more comfortable. But at 6K, I do think the upside is there. And obviously on DK, where you have MPE, you have 4 different spots you can plug them in between power forward, center, forward, and utility. Gives you a lot of leeway of getting someone like that in your lineup. Quick look over at Yahoo just to see what they have on tap from a pricing standpoint. Again, 25K baller, 5K to first place. Harden, Giannis are both $58. LeBron and AD, 51. Cat and Drummond, 50 and 48 respectively. Let's see, Beal, 44. Just doing a quick scroll through here. Westbrook, 42. Try to see some of the names we've mentioned. Brogdon is 34. Walker, 34 as well. Andrew Wiggins, $33. Montrezl Harrell is 31. Randall, 29. So taking a similar track to what we've seen on DK thus far. Can't say anyone standing out as absolutely must play due to price point. Jabari Parker is $25. But I will remind everyone, Yahoo DFS is a different beast. And I mean that as a compliment in so much that, yes, it is similar to FanDuel scoring, but their pricing is completely different. So if you're building lineups on a DK or FanDuel, don't just try to bring them over to Yahoo. Do the research separately. Use our tools. Use Fantasy Crunch or whatever you might use. Use Emacs articles and try to build your bankroll a little bit differently over there. And then if you decide to take it somewhere else, great, or continue to play on Yahoo. Tons of opportunity to get into pricing over there and understand exactly how to build lineups and get maybe a little bit of a differentiation against your DK and FanDuel lineups. I also always highly recommend that if you're building lineups on multiple sites, find the players you want to play on each site. Don't try to play the same players across. Find the value, find where the pricing is off, and expose that for yourself, and so you can get some upside. We're going to close it out with center here, Chris. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns at the top end, 10-3. The maybe direct matchup for centers hasn't been great for San Antonio, but one, Karl-Anthony Towns is very good about at the game of basketball, but even further, San Antonio has been so damn bad on defense. This is not a typical Greg Popovich team. This is one where there's a ton of upside, and 10-3 doesn't seem that egregious a price point. This seems like one where Towns may go, in fact, under-owned, and I'll be all over that. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, I rostered him last night. I thought he was in a great spot. I knew a lot of people wouldn't be on him because of how big of the slate was. And here we are, probably in the same situation yet again. San Antonio has just not been the same team of the past, not that strong defensive Popovich team. And 10.3K, if ownership's not there, it's really hard to say no. And the thing is he was the thing with him is the only thing I'm concerned about is just if his shot's off and he's not hitting threes, that's the only thing that scares me. He is consistently getting you 50 points, but with him at 10.3, we need him to get in the 60s. But I don't mind Towns in that spot.
All right, let's continue on here at center. You have the likes of Drummond and Embiid. Both have tons of upside. Charlotte, maybe one of the better matchups Drummond will have all year. You have Gobert with Q-Tag. Capella, I believe, is sick, right? Yeah, he has an illness.
Yeah.
So Capella could be or could not be in this lineup against Bam Adebayo for the Houston Rockets. Jarrett Allen coming off a gigantic game. I chose incorrectly when comparing him to a couple of different plays the other night, and I definitely hate that I did that. But there's tons of talent here at center. There always is. What are some of the names that you're looking at most of all?
So at center, we talked about Siakam. How about Joel Embiid, man? 0 points
against Toronto. Yep.
Yep. It was just insane. 32 minutes and he scored 0 points. For his level of talent, that's just completely shocking. But I think he has a really strong bounce back game against Sacramento. He's going to be at home. I think he's gotten so much heat since that game. Well, I think it was yesterday, I believe, but 9,100. And at 9,100 for the level of talent that he has, I'm pretty sure that this guy is definitely a lock tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the highest owned players because he's just cheap. He's just priced too cheap for the amount of talent that he has and where he can get you. So I don't mind him. But I don't think I would want to go Gobert, even if he does play Capella as well. I think I'm more interested in Sabonis if Gobert is out. I think that just bumps Sabonis so much more. Jared Allen's getting a little bit too pricey now, but man, is he performing? He has just been really aggressive. He's getting a ton of boards. He's getting a double-double almost every single game. Going against Boston now. If Thies is out and if they're playing Cantor and Williams, this might be of an interesting spot. We just saw Rashawn Holmes kind of really excel against Boston's front court. So I wouldn't be surprised if Allen could do so as well. Bam Adebayo or Adebayo, however you say it. I don't like this matchup. If Capella plays, I feel like it's a little bit of a challenge for him. So I think I would avoid him. I think I would want to attack the backcourt rather than the front court when it comes to Houston. And then I think Montrezl Harrell on this back-to-back, though, going into Memphis, I think we see more of an extended run from him. I think I think the Clippers, what I think takes place here is I think we'll see some guys I think they're going to rest Kawhi or George tomorrow in this matchup, which I think will help Harrell be able to maximize more time on the floor.
Makes a bit of sense on exactly where the matchups come from. What do you like in the cheap section of center? Does a Cantor or a Mo Bamba, a Mitchell Robinson stand out? Cantor obviously getting a ton of minutes there for the Boston Celtics. Last time out, 25. I think that's the most for him on the year. Match the most for him on the season. 13 points, 9 rebounds. Obviously on a site like DK, just missed out on the double-double bonus. Daniel Tice is, in fact, out. Do you like a Cantor at a cheap price point with a bit of upside against the Brooklyn Nets?
So I do like Cantor to some degree. 5,000 though is a lot different than what he was just priced at 3,700. So I would just say proceed with caution because, yeah, if he does play 25 minutes, great. But I don't know if he has that high of a ceiling compared to maybe Tony Bradley, who, if Gobert doesn't play, I feel like has a lot more ability to get you there because I think they'll need him on the floor more with how big of a front court Indiana has. So I would like they're both priced the same. So if I gave the edge, I'd probably give the edge to Bradley over Cantor there. But if you go up a little bit, I do like Miles Turner at 6,000 if Gobert's out as well, because I feel like he can definitely take advantage of that. And at 6,000, we don't really need him to do much. So I can live with that. But any more of the cheaper guys, Kaminsky, I think, is interesting against Washington. But I like Wagner for like a little bit of a sleeper play, 4,800 at Phoenix. I think this is a matchup where Wagner, if Phoenix does blow them out like they're anticipating Vegas with this high point spread, I think Wagner, no matter what, though, is seeing a lot of time on the floor, and he's getting a lot of production. So if you're looking for someone cheap in the center area, I don't like Mortis Wagner at all. Or I don't mind you going Mortis Wagner at all. Excuse me.
I'm going to play the role of Dave Lochran here and say Wagner Rendon.
Is it Wagner?
It's Wagner. Yes.
Oh my gosh, dude! Sometimes I'm just not good with names. I think we all have to understand that.
Well, and I hope everyone gets the tongue in cheek here. I am also not good with names, and so I enjoy the one time I know how a name is pronounced when someone else doesn't. So, it's like the composer Wagner. So
I get so bad at it, man.
Apparently, basketballreference.com is your friend then. That is your friend. Yeah. Enjoy it. Go to it. Moritz Wagner is the basketball player, but I would guess I Americanize a lot of names. I tend to say Moritz Wagner as well is how I would have originally read his name if I did not do the research. But
see, I just focus on giving good plays and
that's what
that's it.
About.
All right. That's what I try to do, man. I try to just make sure people are getting the plays that they need, and then
there it is
out on top. That's what I care about.
That's what you care about. You care about the people. You're a man of the people. Playing the game of asshole, you were a man of the people.
No,
when it came to the card, no, you were a president that ruled with an iron fist.
Okay, I say that.
Nonetheless, you find Chris on Twitter at Chris Rendon. You find him throughout the live shows over on Awesemo.com when it comes to NFL and NBA. You find me at Dan Strafford. Find me here on the DFS Earlybird, of course. And I've throughout the week, the DFS Earlybird will be, let's see, Thursday morning, no DFS Earlybird because there's no NBA. You do have the NFL shows rocking and rolling. Friday morning, you get me and Dave Lochran. As of right now, need to confirm with Lofty. He's available on Turkey Day night. But you'll have two of us Friday morning, Emac and Adam on Saturday. I will admit, and this is a bit of shilling, so much content available for free, but so much better content available behind the paywall at Awesemo.com. If you want to be a member, use that promo code EARLYBIRD, 50% off your first month. But I will also remind you, and this is where the admit comes in, over at Awesemo_com on Twitter, we are giving away free subscriptions pretty regularly. Now, they are sometimes sports specific, sometimes they're for the entire site, but they get you into the back end, into the premium Awesemo Plus packages that are where all the great content is. So you'll want to follow that as well. So lots of content available to you. Lots of plays here available to you on this 14-game NBA slate. As always, thanks so much for listening. We wish you the best of luck on Wednesday's slate. Best of luck on Thursday's NFL slate. We'll be back with you Friday morning right here on the DFS Earlybird presented by Awesemo.com.